Okay, good evening, everybody. So welcome, and this is our second Zen 101 evening, the first Monday of first Tuesday of the month is our Zen 101 and Q&A. So we're departing a little bit, and we're gonna get right into the talk, and then we'll do some sitting afterwards, and we'll do some Q&A after the talk. So our speaker tonight is Marlin Schmidt. And Marlin, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eugen, and thank you everybody for coming out and joining us tonight and listen to me talk about something that I know nothing about, and that's Zen 101. The topic that I want to cover tonight is the Buddhist concept of no self, mostly because it's probably I find it one of the most challenging concepts in Buddhism. So I wanted to, set the bar for failure really high, so that whoever gives these talks after me will be relieved that at least they didn't do as bad a job as I did, taking on a topic that's so thorny and failing so miserably. So in the discussion tonight, I hope to first of all give a bit of an introduction about myself, which is ironic given that my topic is no self. And then sort of recap how this topic ties into what Sean discussed in our last Zen 101 talk. Go through the concept of no self. And then finally, how I think the idea of no self, how practicing this concept can lead to greater compassion for others, and I hope that I can at least give some practical applications for this concept. That it's not just some philosophical idea that Buddhists like to play with that doesn't really have any meaning in the real world. I hope that I can impart some sort of real world application of the concept to the group tonight. Let me just first say that I'm incredibly nervous in giving this talk, and for two reasons. The first of all, I feel like I have absolutely no business giving a talk about Zen Buddhism. I've been practicing for a very short amount of time, and this is really out of my comfort zone. I generally like to talk about things that I have a little bit more knowledge about. The second reason is that as a politician, I am very unused to speaking my own words. Usually I have staff who write speeches for me. So winging it is something that also puts me out of my comfort zone. But finally, and most importantly, I do want to say that the people in this group have come to mean a lot to me over the past few months that we've been sitting together. And I really hope that what I have to say tonight imparts some meaning and value to you, because everybody here in this group has really brought meaning and value to me over the last few months we've been sitting together. And I want to thank everybody for being a really important part of my life over the last few months. So I hope that this talk is a way to return the favor in some small way. So I said that I'd recap the talk that Sean provided us last week, or last month rather. And if you remember, Sean covered some of the history of Buddhism, but also focused on the Four Noble Truths. And my understanding of the Four Noble Truths as he presented it is that the first noble truth is that life is marked by suffering. The second is that the suffering has a cause. The third noble truth is that suffering can end. And then the fourth noble truth is that the end of suffering is achieved by following the Noble Eightfold Path. And one of the elements of the Noble Eightfold Path is this concept of right view. That by seeing the world clearly, we will have a better understanding of our life and what it means to exist here in the world, and as a result, we'll be able to reduce our suffering. And one important element of right view is this concept of no self. And what do people mean when they mean that there is no self? As far as I understand it, it means that the person that we think we are isn't really what exactly we think it is. People go through life being told and telling ourselves that I am an enduring and separate entity walking on this earth with other enduring and separate entities, and that because I'm me and I'm not you, we are separate and apart from each other. And it was the Buddha's view that this view of ourselves and each other was wrong, and that holding this view led to great suffering. And he refuted this view by presenting this idea that people are made up of the 5 aggregates or 5 skandhas. And the 5, and just as an aside, one of the reasons that I feel comfortable with Buddhism is that there are so many lists. I love making lists and I love reading lists. So this is one element of Buddhism that really appeals to me. And but anyway, back to the 5 skandhas. So each person is made up of these aggregates, and they are form. So I understand that to mean the physical form that our bodies take. The second is feeling, and my understanding of this is not feelings like, oh, I'm feeling kind of blue or I'm feeling very happy today, but these are physical feelings. So pain, things like hot and cold, those kinds of feelings. That's my understanding of what they're talking about when they talk about the skandha of feeling. The third skandha is perceptions. So the things that we see and hear and smell and taste and touch. The fourth is mental formations, and in that category are all of our thoughts and feelings, the kinds of things that regularly go on in our heads. And then the fifth skandha is consciousness. So the fact that we are aware that we are people, right, and that we exist, that is this idea of consciousness. So those are the 5 skandhas. And in one of his early discourses, and I understand that it was the second discourse after Buddha's first discourse on the 4 Noble Truths, he identified this idea of non-self, and he went through a mental exercise with his disciples, and he challenged people. He said, well, okay, if you are you and you are in control of you, then you should be able to say that your body takes such and such a form, right? And of course, we all know that that's not true. We don't have any control over our bodies. As one of the classic examples, I'd like to, like, my hair. Look at this mess. I would love to do something with it, but I can't, other than shave it off or let it grow long. Like, there's very little control that I have over my hair. And if I were truly in charge of myself, I would be able to do something about this. And the same thing is true with feelings. I would like to walk out into an Edmonton winter and not feel cold. And for our friends in California, I know that cold is a theoretical concept, but trust me, it's unpleasant when you feel cold. And I would like to be able to go outside and not feel that. But unfortunately, I don't have control over that aspect of my existence either. The one about perceptions is really interesting as well, because not only do we not have control over the things that we do sense, and I would say that we do have some control over the things that we see, but the things that we hear, right? Like, for example, so I'll give you an example from my own life. I used to live in a house that was along a busy road, and when I told somebody that I lived along this busy road, they said, "Oh, doesn't the sound of traffic bother you?" And up until that point, I'd never noticed it. I'd never heard the traffic in my house. And then from that moment on, that was all that I heard while I was living in that house. So just bringing in that awareness, right? Like I didn't even know that I was hearing this traffic until somebody pointed that out to me. So, not only do we not have control over the things that we do sense, we also don't have a lot of control over the things that we don't sense. And touch is one particular aspect, right? Like we don't, our bodies are subjected to so many sense stimulus all the time that our brains can't possibly process it all at once, right? Like I've got the taste of the water in my mouth that I just drank, and I've got clothes all over my body that is touching me. And if I were consciously aware of all of these sense perceptions all the time, it would overload my brain. And so our brains automatically sort out a lot of these perceptions. And so we don't even really have control over the things that we aren't perceiving either. Mental formations, thoughts and feelings. This is one that I think I hope I'm not alone in that it's not really until we sit down and meditate that we realize that we aren't in control of our thoughts, that these things come and go, that our brains just secrete thoughts the way a stomach secretes digestive juices, that we don't have a whole lot of control over the things we think, and we certainly don't have a lot of control over the emotions that we feel. Certainly, if I did, I would not be feeling as nervous as I am right now giving this presentation. And then finally, consciousness. We are aware, but that's not also within our control. So the Buddha went through this exercise, right, pointing this out to his disciples that because we are made up of these aggregates and they are not in our control, it's not really correct to say that we are not ourselves. He also reinforced it by suggesting that none of these things are permanent either, right? Our bodies change over time. There's an old joke. I can't remember who said it, but it was a comedian who was talking about how he wanted to lose weight. And he said, I want to get back to my original weight of 8 pounds, 8 ounces. That just reinforces how much our bodies change over time, our feelings change over time, the things that we perceive, right, are change over time. Our eyesight, we lose our eyesight, we can lose our hearing. If we get sick with COVID, maybe we lose our sense of smell. Those things change over time. Our mental formations change significantly over time. The things that I think and feel change rapidly from moment to moment, day to day. And the things that I think now are very different from the things that I thought years and years ago. And finally, consciousness, that's also impermanent. That one's I'm grappling with that one. I'm not entirely sure what the impermanence of consciousness means, but I take it on faith that the Buddha was correct by suggesting that those things were impermanent. So I started off my talk by reminding us that that this idea of no self is part of the right view. That's part of the Eightfold Path. That is the end to suffering. And I think that when we sit down and realize that there's no person behind all of these aggregates, it's a lot easier to let go of the things that really bother us, maybe about ourselves, first of all, right? Like, it, to go back to this idea of not having control over our bodies. Well, we get messages from popular culture, from media every day that our bodies are not adequate. We're all told that, and we're all shown images of people that we should be aspire to be, and images of what we should look like, and we don't have control over those things. So that's that kind of realization can maybe free us from this expectation that we're constantly bombarded with in our culture. The one particular area I think that I've really benefited from this idea of no self is with the idea of mental formations. And I have long suffered from anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. Those are things that have plagued me for a long time. And the idea that these thoughts are me was really what caused a lot of suffering related to these ideas of anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation. And in fact, when I was really at my lowest point, it was hard to argue with the thought that I should take my own life and not be here anymore. And anyway, that's realizing that I am not the one responsible for that thought, that there's no me there that's thinking that this is something that I have to do, really freed me from the grip that thought had over me for a very long time. That's not to say that I don't continue to have those thoughts, but now when those thoughts happen to me, I can observe them from a sense of distance, right? It's like, that's not me. That's just my brain. Those are just mental formations that are coming, and I don't have to take them seriously. They're there, but they don't have the kind of grip that they had on me in the past. So realizing that, I think it's easy to develop the kind of compassion for ourselves. But I also see that it makes it easier to develop compassion for others. Because if I'm not in control of the way that I think and feel and look and the things that I see, I have to realize that everybody else is in the same boat, that the other people that are in my life also don't have the same control over the things that they think and see and feel, and the way that their bodies present in the world, right? Which is incredibly helpful, particularly in my line of work. So I'm a dirty politician, and I'm constantly surrounded by people who, the political system is set up so that it reinforces this idea of the self, right? I'm me, like I belong to my political party because I don't belong to the other guy's political party, right? That is the basis of our system. And that has created so much suffering in my own life. Like I'm constantly in a situation at work where I'm in a battle with the other, and it's created a lot of difficulty for me. And I don't expect any sympathy, and nor will I get any, because politicians generally rank below used car salesmen and dentists in terms of popularity for professions. But it's had an impact in my life, and I carry this suffering around with me, and it makes it very difficult to interact with my friends and family and loved ones when I'm constantly reinforced with this idea that I am a separate self from all of the other people that I interact with in a day. And that's one task that I've set for myself, is to continually remind myself that when I'm at work, I'm not me, and the people who are opposite me or surrounding me are not them, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but it helps me realize that it helps me let go a lot of the anger, a lot of the hatred that I feel, and it makes me better able, I think, to do my job. And I think that while my circumstances are unusual, right, I think that that's the sense that we are surrounded by others who are not us is something that a lot of people feel these days. We definitely see a lot of division and anger and hatred, and you only have to look at somebody's Facebook comments online or the replies on Twitter, and the hatred that people spew is breathtaking. And I think that a lot of it comes from this reinforcement of this sense of self, that I'm me and you are you, and we are completely separate and often opposed. And I think that by breaking down this idea of self, we can have compassion for ourselves, have compassion for each other, and treat each other with the kindness and compassion that we all deserve. That was, I think I've run out of time. Normally when we're meeting in the legislature, there's a timer that goes off at 20 minutes, and we just talk until the buzzer goes, the buzzer goes, and then we sit down. There's no timer here, and it's hard to find a natural end. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody listening to me, and I really hope that we get a little bit of time to have a discussion. I'm really interested to know if what I had to say had any meaning or value, or happy to answer any questions. Or I'm genuinely interested in constructive feedback on the things that I had to say tonight. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion that we can have. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Marlin. That was what a great talk. So I have something, but I'll save it, because we'll open up the phone lines here to those that want to. So just there's not very many of us, so just unmute yourself if you want to say something.
Aaron, can you put everybody on screen so we can see everybody?
Oh, who are you asking that to, Jenna?
I was asking Ryugan if he could take you off the big screen and put everybody up so we could all see each other.
If you go to the top right hand, there's a view button, and you just choose gallery, because I think he took off his screen sharing.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. First of all, Marlin, what a wonderful discussion for someone who has not been studying for very long. You really nailed it about no self. So just thank you so much for your insights and for sharing your personal journeys and being vulnerable with all of us here. That's very refreshing and appreciated. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful talk. Thank you.
Marlin, thank you. It was a beautiful, beautiful speech. Really appreciated all your thoughts, and it struck a chord with me. You did a very good job, very good. And I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marlin.
Thank you. Oh, did you freeze? Oh dear. Joe froze. That's
In gut show. It's a beautiful posture.
I just want to say thank you too. Like, what a wonderful introduction to your group. And I really loved how you made some of those sort of deep insights, how you turn them into something practical. It was really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
So yeah, no, it was that was excellent, Marlon. You know, when you were talking about some of the more painful aspects in terms of, you know, things that people deal with, and thank you for your vulnerability and talking about that and how this particular teaching has maybe changed the way that you do look at some things. You know, I was reminded actually something that Tracy said from her talk a week or so ago, where she referenced Thich Nhat Hanh's poem "Call Me by My True Names," and if you haven't read his book The Art of Living, he actually expands upon it, and in particular, so this particular piece, no self, you know, I kind of thought that I had an intellectual hold on, but then he told the story because he worked helping the Vietnamese boat people, and he spent after the Vietnam War, and he tells the story in the poem, but then he expands upon it in the book about you know, the circumstance of the sea pirates used to go in and they used to rob the people that were you know, that were in the boats. And he tells the story of the sea pirate that raped the 12-year-old girl, and then the 12-year-old girl jumped into the ocean afterwards. She committed suicide, and he uses that, and he uses that in a way to that story to bring out this talk that you've the theme of the talk that you brought out tonight, and you brought it out from a very personal level of you know, the immediate reaction, you know, in our society is to to blame the sea pirate as the other, and you know, empathizing with the 12-year-old girl. And he shocked me by, you know, his discussion. I am also the sea pirate. In addition to being, I am also the 12-year-old girl. And it just what you said too struck a chord with me in terms of you know, your discussion, your application of for yourself, you know, with your own thoughts and feelings that came up, but also the application in your work. And I just want to thank you for that. So yeah.
Marlin, just want to say thank you so much. That's a wonderful one-on-one session with such accuracy, and your bravery and openness and vulnerability. And being in where you're standing, I can only imagine. You know, but I have I truly have this respect to you. I cannot even begin to imagine this weight that you are bearing on your shoulders. But like I said before, I try to do how is this even practical? This Buddhist, this Zen thing, how is it even practical in a social setting? And I, well, thanks to the influence from American Zen Buddhism, I gave it a shot. I miserably failed. That experience of failure, at least I remember, and it's nothing compared to where you are standing, but in a small municipal level, people come up with their voices, and then that can have a power to blind us. I think your talk tonight was really relevant to what's happening in the world now, with Ukraine, Russia. So, no, thank you very much, Marlin.
Thank you. Thank you, Gyoke.
Marlin, I don't know you at all, but outside of this group, I just want to say that I'm really glad to know that you're a politician.
Well, that makes one of us, Nathan, but thank you. Yeah, no, I really appreciate, one of the things that has become apparent to me is that online relationships are just as important as in real life relationships. You and other people on the call, I've never met in person, and yet, like I said at the very beginning, you've all come to mean a great deal to me, and so thank you for that.
Thanks very much, Marlin.
Marlene, I just was kind of when you're making this, when you're sharing the experience of this anxiety and suicidal thought, one thing that I guess I didn't realize much was that person who, in general public, would consider with some, I don't know, authority or power, or maybe even just the fame, like celebrities on TV. People start to somehow think they're just exempt from this basic human decency, or that they exempt from being hurt, that somehow they're outside of this. One thing I really appreciate in Buddhism is that there isn't anyone exempt, and that everybody has this equal share of suffering. So that part of the talk you shared with us tonight really resonated, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Gyoke, I think that if I could just respond to what you're saying, the attitude that I have to the other, my opponents in the political arena, I'm often not willing to give them that decency. I treat them as exempt, even though I'm in their same role, right? Like I don't often see them as whole human beings in their own right, and that practice, that habit, then extends onto me. So if I don't treat those others in a way that I don't treat myself that way as well, and so it's poisonous for everybody. That's been my hard but true experience in that. So.
I can say the same thing too. I work for the organization Institution of Soto Zen, famous and infamous. Some people are very respectful. Many who are, I know there are many who don't even give a crap about it, because it's, and I totally get it. And so I stand in there middle. Just over this weekend, I had a trip, and then this feeling of something doesn't resonate, something is not right about being around these people. It always comes back to me. But I'm not official, or just official, nominal. Then kind of experience like this again, reminds me of how important it is to have a genuine group, a community. But then today's talk, Sangha. And I try not to think that, okay, because this is genuine, therefore these people are, again, exempt. I mean, they are formed of everything, but whatever I conceive of them as they are. So just knowing where they come from, the function they play, the responsibility they have. And there are many great qualities and things that I try to ignore. But yeah, thank you. I need it. I guess, I'm sorry, I'll stop it here. I appreciate it, especially today after.
Well, thank you, everyone, for being such a good group to learn from and to learn, to work with all the time. And unfortunately, I